of the librarians tonight. I thank you guys for taking that extra consideration to be here. We're really happy to have you all. And I'm going to start by saying again, please help yourself to hot pizza. Why it's hot. It's the only time I'll eat it. And please feel free to get up and get some as we're talking. And we're going to go around and introduce each other to each other. And then we'll have a quick icebreaker and then we'll get started. Your name, please.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Ayers. I am working on the Link Us project and am also a North London area commissioner.
Welcome, Jasmine.
Glad to be here.
I'm Chris Michiki. I'm the treasurer of the Wineland Park Community Civic Association.
I'm Chris Orban. I've been in Wineland Park for a long time. This is my new thing, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But I live over on Hamlet Street.
She just took a bite. You want
And the
her to come
reason
back
I'm running
to
for
you?
office is actually because. Are you ready?
I'm Julie, but I live on Hamlet as well. And this is Claire.
Hi, Julie. Hi, Claire.
Hi, I'm Rachel Sangetter. I work for the Short North Alliance. Here today to talk about some public art. Hi.
Hi, I'm Stacey Bill. I am the neighborhood liaison for Wineland Park.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Michelle Rubin King, Wineland Park resident.
Hello, Simone. I live in Wineland Park on 6th Street.
Welcome, Simone. Thank you for coming.
I'm Rory McGinnis. I'm one of the deputy directors in our public service department. I'm the city's point person for Link Us.
Awesome.
I'm Tom Rebo. I am a resident of Wineland Park. I'm in Wineland Park on 1200 Hamlet Street.
What street?
Hamlet,
Hamlet.
1200
Welcome.
block.
Welcome.
I'm Lauren Jones. I'm also on Hamlet Street and I'm the secretary of the Civic Association.
Hi, I'm Elliot Lewis. I work with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, MORPC. So I'm one of our point people for Link Us as well. And I don't live here, I live just up in South Lakeville.
Awesome. Well, welcome. And
I'm Kate Purevoice. I'm a Wineland Park resident and live on Summit.
awesome. Thank you. I'm so glad to see new faces from Wineland Park. We are we are really trying to have more community involvement and engagement, and this is headed in the right direction, so I'm excited. Thank you for all the new faces. Right now, I want to ask you all, you can comment or you can. We'll do a popcorn style, so you don't have to go around. But when I got that pizza over there, mind you, I called and ordered the pizza. I told him what I wanted on the pizza, and then I told him I would pick up the pizza. And when I got there to get the pizza, he asked me for a tip. So my question and icebreaker tonight is, are you in or out on this tipping for everything? Are you in or out? Because I'm definitely out. If I am a tipper. If I go to dinner, the dinner's great, I'm going to start at 20% and it's going to go up or down. And I will tip at the most appropriate time. Doorman, cabs, DoorDash, people who really earn their tip. I'm not tipping you at Kroger at the cash register when I scan my own groceries. Are you in or are you out? Go for it.
I'm out for the most part. I feel badly for employees, because we're in tough times right now.
Yeah.
We need money to get that, but it's gotten a little out of control, a little bit so.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you're an out.
Definitely succumb to the peer pressure.
It's situational for me. Like, just like you said, all of the, service, but it's like, what is it? Is it Fusion? The sushi place?
Yeah.
Like, it was so weird to me when they start flipping that thing around and they're like hit one of those and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't even tasted the sushi yet. Like, I don't know if it's good or bad. Like, that's so weird to me.
I'm curious what other people think about this one, because I just got a haircut today.
Beautiful.
Deserve the tip.
Well, yeah, and the way it used to be, like when I was first getting a haircut, it was like 10%
Yeah.
was what you did for haircut. But like I was in a garage that I did 15. There was no 10% option. There was only like 15, 18, and 20. And I just did 15. I was like, oh no, he's probably gonna judge me after this. Because I realized I was like, that's probably on the lower end. And I felt pressure, like,
If you talk to folks in service, like a lot of times people leave nothing or they leave like $2. So
Yeah.
I think if you're right around that number, I think they're generally always appreciative. I'm mostly peer pressure. I'll leave you $1, right? Like I'm not cashing you out if you didn't do much, but I'm also a tipper at the correct moment.
At the correct
It
moment.
sometimes depends on whether it's like electronic tip or they have cash tip
Yeah,
and how they actually divvy it up too. Like,
Right, ask that.
you know, does this go into a pool for everybody? Does
Right.
the owner scheme off the top? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, like, how does that work at Fusion though? Like,
right.
like it's like one person shook the shake stuff on there, one person rolled the rice out, one person like put the soy sauce in it. It's like all these different people, like Subway too.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
Subway.
Yeah, it's
And
like
I leave $1.
I am out when it's tipping for fast food. There's like.
It also depends how much money I'm making.
And that's how you
Yeah.
have like, more rice, no beans.
Yeah.
And it, I don't know.
It's
That's
like you
just-
put
It's
your
also
green
like-
onions really well.
Yeah.
It seems to be very
Processing
regional
units, I don't
because
think
if you
so.
travel to virtually every country away from the US, you're not tipping other folks.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
employers are generally paying their employees and providing generally, you know, there's maybe medical benefits that the government pays for. So the employer doesn't have to pay for all these additional things. So when you go to other countries, you can tip a little bit, but sometimes if you tip like 15, 20%, in some ways it's almost like an insult. Like,
Yeah.
why are you paying me this extra amount of money?
Yeah.
My employer's paying me. I don't need this tip.
Yeah.
So it seems odd that, you know, our culture sort of,
Yeah.
you know,
Like I
is
said, I'm a
training us to tip
tipper.
people, but then there is this weird line of who you tip. Your barista, your Kroger self-checkout kiosk, I don't know. You know.
I think
So some of it seems a bit ridiculous, and some of it seems, well, I guess they're tipped employees and they're lower wage at a couple bucks an hour. Maybe that seems appropriate, but when will the the employer decide to kick it up a notch?
I think that's also relevant though with the health benefits, that I think I usually tip because of the fact that we don't have universal health care in this
Yeah.
country, and I pay low income tax relative to what I would pay
Yeah.
everyone else because we don't pay for health care. So I kind of think of it that way, like I'm helping to pay what I should be paying income tax to individuals. But I wish we would just have a better system where employers had to pay a living wage and give health care for everybody.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
is
it
an
shouldn't really
issue.
be used to subsidize people.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
Exactly.
It really should just be like, what do you do when it's great? But I'm hoping that like everyone's gonna get so tired that it's being ridiculous that like restaurants that go to no tipping and just build it into the price, which historically have not worked very well because people just compare prices and won't go to the more expensive one,
Yeah.
will become more popular if they know they don't have to worry about tipping and hidden fees.
I went somewhere the other day in downtown where it said on the bill, we've added 3% to provide healthcare for our employees.
Oh, I love
Restaurant.
that.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, if you
glad
go
I love
to-
that.
Having the same service charge.
Tanya,
Instead of
like,
saying
it's
service
that
charge,
parable
it's like-
downtown,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
you don't tip there because it's already included, because they do pay their employees
I
like a
love
living.
that. And I know
wage.
like in Atlanta, they do that a lot in restaurants,
Yeah.
they include the tip. So, okay, it wasn't just me. Thank you guys for participating. Okay, great icebreaker. So now I want to invite Chris Orban, who is my friend and neighbor, his whole family, I love them all. And Chris has decided he wants to run for office for the State Board of Education here. So let's let Chris tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've lived in Wyland Park since 2006, and for a while I was kind of the liaison between the Wyland Park Civic Association and the city on topics relating to mobility and walkability, which I'm sure we're going to talk about today. And then later I got a professor position at Ohio State University, and so I didn't have as much time to do that, but I started to serve on committees with the Ohio Department of Education, and eventually, I learned enough about the organization. I decided I'm going to run for the state board because there's an open seat. There's not somebody that I'm trying to oust from the board. So there's an open seat, and I'm excited to run for that. So the State Board of Education is a licensure board, and so an analogy is that the state medical board is to doctors and nurses as the State Board of Education is to teachers and principals. I work with a lot of teachers. I was on a webinar all day today with high school teachers and Ohio Department of Education. But the seat itself doesn't have a lot of power, but it does have access to some of the highest ranking people that control the school system in Ohio. And so I'm excited to be part of this, and I'm excited to share that with Moyle Park Civic Association. I'm going to end with, I'm going to make it short, inspirational quote. My favorite author is Thomas Merton. He's a monk and an activist and a writer.
Yes.
And I don't know if you're familiar with him. Yes. My favorite quote from him is that we are not perfectly free until we live in pure hope. And what that means to me is that if you want to improve the school system, the first thing you have to do is really believe that it can be improved. And that's something that I carry with me as I try to do these things. So, so there's a petition that you can sign to put me on the ballot for November. And then if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to take a picture up here of my campaign, if that's all right? Is that okay? I've not done this before. Well, somebody who is like a government employee who has to stay out of it can potentially take the picture. Yes.
Take a picture.
Thank you.
Oh, you want us to come in the picture?
Yes.
Is that all right?
If
If you want to.
Yeah.
If you want to.
He did ask for a picture. Let's do that.
If you're willing to do that, that would be really
Anybody willing to get in the picture?
Come on, Claire. Do you want Claire on the phone? Come on, Claire Byrne. So,
Where do you want us?
Just go back.
You don't want the table in your
Why don't
picture.
you just come in front of the table?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't want the table in there.
Yes, we don't want the table picture. Can we move the table? By the way, it's not a paid position, so it's not like I'm quitting my job at OSU. So, so this is not as high stakes as it might
But
seem.
they basically set the policy of around education for the state, right?
Yeah, yeah. So,
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody ready? All right. Let's see. I'll make it just a little, tighten it up a little bit. Do one more. I think you're gonna like it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
Doesn't mean that I endorse.
I know, we know. Thanks, everybody.
Technically, it's after 5. But I am here on as in my official capacity.
Okay, guys, thank you so much, Chris. Let's give him a hand. And I'm going to let Lawrence, our secretary, introduce our next guest.
So next up, we have the folks here representing LinkUs, and they're going to give us a presentation to explain what exciting opportunity for our region to increase accessibility. So come on up, and Jasmine, I don't know if you want to do slides or whatever.
You do have a speaker plug in.
Sure.
How would you like some
Have
of
to
those
live
lights?
within this particular district.
Well, wait till she gets going.
Can this be anybody who's a registered voter in Ohio?
You do have to live
Not
within the
not
district,
pitch,
so
But it's pretty wide district.
it's
Okay.
something like half of Columbus is in my district.
Okay.
The districts are surprisingly large because there's 11 elected members for the state board, and so it's like, take Ohio and divide by 11.
But if you can, like, they only have to verify so many, so even like if you're not sure, you can still go ahead and sign.
If I'm not in the city of Columbus.
Oh, there's still like Lancaster is,
Yeah, it goes out to Lancaster,
What about Delaware?
not Delaware. So it's like take Columbus and divide it diagonally, and about the southeast end, and going out to Canal Winchester and Lancaster and Sandstone. So, take it away.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know you're doing introductions. You're not.
I'm standing here to.
Oh, okay.
The buttons for you and take notes.
Okay, sweet. All right. Well, hi everybody. Thank you again for letting us come out and present all this information about LinkUs. You've probably heard it here and there, but we'd like to just give a really good overview of what we're doing now and as we're leading up into November. So again, my name is Elliot Lewis. I serve as a principal planner with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Morpsey, Rory, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself again?
Sure, Rory McGinnis, one of the deputy directors in the Department of Public Service at the City of Columbus, and work a lot with Elliott, Morpsey, and Dakota, and Franklin County, and lots of other partners.
Again, I'm Jasmine Ayers. I'm helping with community outreach for the LinkUs initiative. Also a North London area commissioner, and I once lived on 203 East 6. So if you know the guy that feeds the cats, that's my dude.
Steve. Shameless Steve. Yes, he did.
I can if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Sweet. So before we begin, I don't know if the QR code on the table does the same thing, but we have a nice electronic sign-in QR code, so you want to scan that. That'd be great just so we can get an idea of the attendance and who all we're reaching. I'll leave that up, but again, Rory was getting into it a little bit, but LinkUs is a mobility initiative. It's not just for buses. You know, CODA is going to be on the ballot in November for this sales tax increase that would go to reimagining how we get around our region and how we even choose to develop our region as well. So it's a partnership between CODA, the City of Columbus, Morpsey, and Franklin County, and a host of other local nonprofit organizations that touch anything from sidewalks to housing to workforce development. So it's really a multifaceted thing that we'll try and simplify just a little bit. So hopefully I have enough time to do that. So before I begin, I will play just a short little video to kind of like just bring it home of how it works. Maybe not. If not, we can skip it. It's fine.
Oh, that's my computer.
Yeah.
Very cognizant of having the resources in place to contribute to people's success, assisting people with transportation was in their bucket list. Out of 30 staff,
I don't know. I don't think you guys. Can you hear that? Back there.
I think you can.
It's also on the website. We can share it later.
I on like $293 a month. Never had a car really, or it seemed like when we did have a car, it was always like a very stressful source of elatement when we got the vehicle, and then the vehicle would get repossessed. I never left my neighborhood, child. And if I would have had access to transportation, maybe I couldn't find a job in my neighborhood. Maybe I could have found a job in a different suburb or a different area. So it wasn't until I went to another neighborhood that I realized, oh, people live different. It allowed me to kind of dream. Because it's going to connect the city in a way that is not currently connected. There are people who would benefit from having that access and potentially change their life.
So you heard a lot.
I was just gonna say, Letha's a local business owner.
All right, I need you to come back up.
Oh, yep.
Don't went away. I'm not good with Macs, I'm sorry. I'm an engineer, it's all PCs, I can't do anything.
The next slide.
Yes. There we go, okay. So you heard a lot about the idea of more access. Access to different destinations, to different neighborhoods, access to jobs, access just ways to get around that are affordable and reliable. Heard a little bit about precarity with having a vehicle. We know a lot of people in the region don't have a vehicle, so when we think of trying to accommodate a lot of the growth that is happening now and happening here in the near midterm future, we really are trying to think about how to move everyone around and how to build so we're accommodating all these new neighbors to where we're preserving existing options of housing and jobs and accommodating the new ones coming in. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach. One is, as you can think of it with CODA being there, increased public transportation. Higher capacity, more premium buses, increased frequencies, longer hours on the rest of the network, as well as more on-demand service called CODA Plus. If you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like Uber, but run by CODA. And there are different zones around the region. This could potentially add more of those as well. But it's not just the public transit, it's also sidewalks, bikeways, all the things that get you from your house to the bus stop. Who here actually knew that CODA could fund sidewalk projects? Okay, you don't count. It was kind of a trick question too, because the Ohio Revised Code had to be changed 2 years ago just to allow CODA to be able to fund this. But if you think about it, this is an integral part of our transit network. I mean, if we can run 50% more buses, but if that's 5 blocks away and there's not much between you and that bus stop, those are gaps that we need to fill and that we've been working for a while to identify, what gaps that we can fill in the very near term and then throughout this program. And then it's also thinking about, okay, well, it's not just the public transportation, it's not just how we get around to the public transportation, but where is it coming from? Where is it going to? We have 1 million new people coming by 2050. The vast majority of that growth is going to be in Franklin County. So that's high concentrated growth. But we know we can accommodate that growth if we build in ways that is more conducive to promoting transit use, promoting walking and biking, not having everyone get in their own car and drive to every single destination that they have. And so bringing all of this together is how we want to ensure that everyone now and in the future has an opportunity to buy into this prosperity that we're expecting with a lot of this growth. So I talked about growth. Yeah, it's happening. It's here. We keep saying, oh, 2050, a lot of people. No, we're growing now. I mean, we know that we have a housing shortage. We know that traffic is getting worse. And there's just a lot more people in the region. That's coincided with the fact that people spend almost $13,000 a year in transportation for the average Franklin County household. Housing costs have gone up almost 50% too. So you have a lot of headwinds with that. And then you look at the region, you zoom out, those are the averages, but we know that those burdens are felt in non-uniform ways across the region. There are other places that haven't really seen any of this investment and growth are getting left behind. How do we, again, accommodate growth in a way that everyone has an opportunity to live where they live still, have an opportunity to go to a job nearby and don't have to go across the region and drive an hour to do so. So I'm going to start talking about the sidewalks first. This is a bus thing. Why are we talking about sidewalks first? Well, like I said, if you are taking a journey by a bus, you've got to step out your door, walk to the bus stop, wait at the bus stop, and get on the bus. And when you get off, you got to walk where you're going, or roll, or whatever you're doing. Every trip begins and ends as a pedestrian. And so this is fundamental to how we make sure that our mobility investments are tied together and work. So when I say we, by the way, again, I'm going back to the Link Us partners, but also all of our local communities that we work with, all the way down to villages and townships as well. And so when I say we, I mean it is a regional. We've been looking to see where these investments can be made, what those gaps are, and identified over 500 miles of potential sidewalks and bike paths that could be implemented by Link Us. That's 500 miles of not road, not bridge, as important as they are, but of sidewalks that people use every day. And so where MORPC comes in, I also act as what's called a transit supportive infrastructure program manager for that at MORPC. But when you hear TSI or anything like that, just think trails, sidewalks, all of these non-motorized network. And so we've been working with each of our local partners to identify which of those projects we can build, but which of those projects we can actually build by 2030. So we can say, yes, in your community, in your backyard, we're working to put protected bike lanes here, sidewalks, fill in the gaps in our regional greenway network too, so that people have increased access to transit, so you can actually get to the transit stop itself, but also promote more walking and biking region-wide. Identified over $500 million of potential projects. We're working to hone that in and have a draft program of projects to be able to share with folks and get more feedback on here in the very near future about that as well. So what?
Should we wait to the end to ask questions?
Oh, I don't care. Go ahead.
My understanding is that sidewalks that are by residential houses are the problem of the homeowner and the city can't do anything about it. Has that equation fundamentally changed in like what you're talking about?
So I'll answer that question because I think every jurisdiction may be a little bit different. I think in most central Ohio communities, homeowners are responsible for maintaining the sidewalks in front of their homes. That being said, sometimes sidewalks are improved as part of infrastructure projects if they need to, like if we need to put in a new ADA curb ramp for people to have access to that. Or I know in Wineland Park, there were retaining walls that were put in as the projects were happening to help with that access. What we're really focused here on that 500 miles is not necessarily improving the sidewalks that we already have, but it's really filling in the gaps that exist. And so as much as there are issues that we have with buckling of sidewalks and things of that nature, at least there's a sidewalk there. What we're really focused on is where it doesn't exist and making that a lot safer, because as much as it's great that we're going to be able to do at least 500 miles, we actually have a couple of thousand miles of sidewalk gaps that exist within the code of service area.
But to your point though, also it's not just non-existent stretches of sidewalk too, but anything that presents an actual accessibility barrier, could be eligible for this. But we've really focused on things that definitely don't exist because of the regions of highest need.
This is so interesting that I'm seeing this because I work in an area of people with low income, and one of the people that I work with, we were trying to move her, and she didn't want to move from one side of town to the other because she didn't have a car, and her kids would have to catch a bus to Groveport School, so we were trying to move her way north. And she was like, look, there's no sidewalks for them to walk, and they probably will be walking like at 6 in the morning. Sometimes it'll be dark, and they're young girls, and they have to catch this bus from like Cleveland Avenue and Belcher all the way to Groveport. And they're, I said, well, this is there, and it's the number one, and they go to Livingston. She goes, no, that hasn't happened in a while. And I remember when that change occurred, I was like, oh, wow, how would they get over it? She said, I have no idea. So
It's funny you mentioned the Groveport schools, so Groveport Madison High School, that area has been proposed for actual bus stops and sidewalks all along the school area. So that's one of the priority projects that we've been talking about. So to give you an example of something that TSI this program could be, a partial solution or a solution for, I think you may have heard of it, but if you haven't, it's a project called the Linden Green Line. And Rory gushes about this a lot, so he might jump in and say some more things. But it's a 7-mile long corridor going all the way through Linden that connects so many different neighborhoods. And it's not just put a trail here, but it's actually thinking about how do we repurpose former transportation infrastructure, as a former railroad, and make it usable again, and make it a place that people want to go to too. That think of like a linear park. And while that's also awesome and good, you have so many different connections all along the way that connects to existing bus lines too. And so creating a spine where people can go out into the neighborhood, experience the neighborhood, but also get to other ways to get around is absolutely vital. I mean, better access for 131 residents, dozens of parks and schools as well. So it's projects like this, but it's also projects, like I said, with the sidewalk gaps. The really cool thing about this opportunity is that it can, it's not just the big ticket items. People said, hey, we just need to extend our path half a mile, and that would connect us to the regional greenway network. Or, oh, we just want to upgrade our 5 bus stops so they have shelters and benches, and people actually feel dignified when they're waiting for a bus, and it's not just a sign on the side of the road. And so the breadth of the types and scales of projects really fit within this large umbrella of this potential project that we're planning.
Yeah, so the 7-mile long thing, it sounds to me like you're describing it's going to be sort of a bike lane that you could also walk on. Is that correct?
Yes. I was going to say, it's very similar to like if you went on the Olentangy Trail or the Scioto Trail. Just currently, you can't really do that because it's basically a abandoned rail line, and you can't really see the tracks anymore. But it's basically that rail line has basically divided the community in Linden for many years, and this is an opportunity to use something that unfortunately once divided the community to reconnect the community. So as Elliot talked about, all along that 7-mile stretch, there's like 40 different access points to this trail.
And I bike, and you cannot ride on Cleveland Avenue. So it's really hard to get north-south through the neighborhood. So this is just safe.
So is it going to be lit? Is there going to be lights?
Yes.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there going to be lights?
Yes, absolutely.
I love the way that Cleveland Avenue is looking with all new crosswalks. Like that. So that was such a long time coming. So.
Yes, it was.
And things like crosswalks, upgraded, crossings and intersections are also things that could be included in this. Anything that helps accessibility, helps safety too. Because yes, we want to build things, but we want to build things to make sure that we make people safer. We make the trips easier, trips that people have to take, they can rely on it. But trips that people want to take, they actually desire to take it too.
I have 2 sisters that live in Minneapolis, and as you know, they've really made use of abandoned railroads and made greenways, and it's amazing. It really is amazing.
That, or like the 606 in Chicago, or other things like that, just being able to make things useful again, especially in an area, like Rory said, it's been divided too. But yeah,
I have one more thing. I'm a recently retired principal for Columbus City Schools, and I think it would be really neat if you could show the public like an overlay of where you're looking at those gaps on the sidewalks, especially if they're around our public schools.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our school children walk in the middle of the road, like you said, 6 in the morning, and snowy days and everything, or snowy days because the sidewalks aren't cleared. So if you could show like where those gaps are and addressed.
It is in the works right now, I promise you, but thank you, especially for the schools. That's something that we've thought about a lot for obvious reasons. But yeah, we, again, want to show where those needs are and how this is actually meeting a lot of those needs. It's not going to be a cure-all for everything, but this is a bigger investment than we have in this region across all of our funding sources to build these types of projects. It is transformational.
A question.
Okay.
I'm assuming that Windsor Place is supposed to be Windsor Avenue. Is that when you say starting from Windsor Place near downtown? Like where's Windsor Place at?
So it's actually starting down at the Douglas Community Center.
Right, behind the swimming pool. That's
Yeah,
Windsor
right.
Avenue.
Yeah, so that's right there.
So is it like supposed to go up behind Windsor Pool up to like Bellitter? And then where is it supposed to?
Yeah, it's basically,
Yes.
the green line is actually, if you go on Billiter,
Yeah.
it's actually the Billiter dead ends into it.
We call it
that's
down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 17.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like all,
Yeah.
like-
Right
So
there.
that is going to be transformed into the 58-acre linear park.
Okay, like do St. Stephen's and all of that, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I actually, when I moved to Ohio, we moved to Windsor. That's why I'm like, I don't even know, I've never even heard of Windsor Place. I'm like,
I'm
they
not
got it
sure
in
if Windsor
Avenue.
Place is the name of, it might be the residences in that
It's
area.
Roseland.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
now
It used
Roseland.
to be
I
Windsor,
think-
it's now Rose.
Our Rec and Parks Department is who
okay.
put together that information, but it's that,
Yeah, like,
that
no, I
general
just
area.
wanted to know, because when you said near downtown, I thought maybe it was a Windsor Place that I, I'm not aware of. But when you said the Douglas, I remember us as children walking on the tracks through to Bellitter to 17th to St. Stephen's, when Douglas was on Brooks and not on Windsor.
Mhm.
So that's where I was trying to map out, like, so it picks up behind the swimming pool.
Yes.
And then when you get to 17th, there's 17th and there's St. Stephen's, then what happens? Like what happens there?
It basically,
It basically keeps going up. So you talked about walking from Douglas in the pool up to St. Stephen's.
Yes.
Like that track that you're talking about,
Mhm.
that's exactly what we're talking about, turning that into a big wide trail and linear park. Once it gets up to past St. Stephen's, it would continue on where those tracks are for another 7 miles north. Up,
Okay.
yeah, almost up close, not all the way to, but close up to like Dublin Granville Road area in 161.
161.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's currently no train tracks right now, it's just empty land or
It's trains
But
right
it's,
there.
Okay.
it's
Oh,
both.
or quasi?
it depends, I think it's been grown, it hasn't
Yes.
been a railroad line since the 1960s.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Whether or not
either nature has reclaimed it, or there might be some tracks there. I've really only
It's
gone on
tracks
the,
there.
Yeah.
the Billiter part.
Okay.
Mhm.
And, but to me, this is a project that when we build this will be, people from around the country will want to look at this, because this is just an incredibly transformational project. And one that really can help us reconnect the community.
Mhm.
So when you talk about like the bus line and this, how does that coincide?
Stay tuned.
It's coming.
I would say it's coming. So I'm gonna wrap up talking about like the sidewalks.
There's more in the
Oh,
presentation.
And there's
Okay,
more,
that's
yeah.
like,
We got a
It's all
whole
right.
section about buses that Rory's gonna talk about.
okay.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in just 1 second. So I do want to touch on the fact too. So it's all these sidewalks and trails, and we'll talk about buses here in a second. But again, we know that all this investment, like it represents a large public investment into our infrastructure. That coupled with the existing growth that we're expecting, really could have a powerful force when it comes to development. And we want to be able to grow our region, in smarter ways, ways that we're not keep building out, and pushing people further away, but also building in such a way that in areas that can actually accommodate growth too. Because we have a housing crunch right now. We're already behind 200,000 housing units, and we're just trying to pick up and catch up after that. And so what we've been working on too, I say we, I mean not just the four partners, we're talking 300 different stakeholders to develop what's called an Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Action Plan, ETOD. So kind of just breaking that down, it's how we develop in a way that puts people a little bit closer together, so where you can walk more easily, but also take transit more easily, support that. But then do it in a way that preserves the existing housing options in the neighborhoods and in the region, and do so where you can bring in jobs where people can actually get to them, and you don't have to again travel across the region to do so. So it's preserving those options and then creating more options with a focus on affordability. This is the draft action plan is coming out very soon.
Yeah, it'll be by September is when that's coming out. So
Yes.
we're working internally right now. We have the draft of it completed, but we're
So-
kind of putting the finishing touches on.
And so a very important thing about this is we're all cognizant of the importance of who's actually benefiting from these investments. Where is this going to go? But this is an action plan. It's a strategy. We are still working with each of the local communities and the individual, say, zoning codes and ways people plan to actually enact this. So I think you had Zone In come in recently and talk about that. That's being done in concert with this too, to be able to promote all of these options choices in the future.
Question.
Yes.
They're talking about building more housing, right?
Yes.
It's not affordable.
So part of this action plan is what can we do to actually build more affordable and deeply affordable housing?
Because right now, I just counted in our neighborhood and surrounding neighborhood, we have at least 40 new developers. And all of them. Now, I've been going to different segments. Who can afford $1,500 a month for a one-bedroom apartment? It's not for us, it's not for me.
That's
So
not
one
for
of
a lot
the things
people
that,
in this room.
all of these new units that are being
They're
built,
stacking. That's
in order to be able to build those units in the city, let's say you're building a 100-unit complex, at least 20% of those units and potentially 30% of those units have to be income qualified units. So has to be affordable to 80% or less of the area median income. And so basically all across the city, we're incentivizing affordability in the units that we have. And so in order to be able to build the affordability into these complexes, the market rate is paying for a lot of these units. But 20% of all those units, if you're building a 100-unit building, 20% of them, or 20 of those units, have to be income qualified for people making less than the area median income. And usually it's 80% and below.
Who regulates that though? Because I know the apartments that are behind us on that grant, because I work with Jobs and Family Services and liaison with Medicaid and Medicare, and we have so many, recipients of benefits who are calling these different places because they've been told by whether it's Section 8 HUD that 20% or they have to accept,
Sure.
or it's so many apartments that have to be under this medium. But when you call them, they are like, we don't know what you're talking about. I've actually talked to the lady at Grant, and just what you just said, somebody told us in a meeting. And so I called and I'm like, well, what about this? And she's like, well, I'm gonna have to get with our regional supervisor because we don't know anything about that. We don't have any type of programs like that. So it's really strange.
So every one of these units has to go through a process to get certified through the city to be able to do that. And so the city makes the developers sign restrictive covenants that basically say you have to provide this affordability. And then they're also the people who do the auditing of that. I can get for you who are the people that do that. That's our Department of Development. But that's what I can't speak to, this particular development that's maybe not complying with that, but that's basically why we're doing all of this.
I think one of the problems that and I'm not going to try and shoot any of the messengers, okay? It's just the framework zone in is currently working under is 80 to 100% AMI meets that affordability. And when we look at HUD and Fannie Mae and their metrics for AMI for this area, it's 103,000 AMI. We don't make 103,000. And so, or 80% of that.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at a single bedroom, 80% AMI is
Yeah.
pretty expensive.
I think it's
a lot of
yeah.
kids-
It's not.
A lot of
It's
people on
not-
our street are renting at $675 for.
Yeah.
So we can't afford triple that.
And I think what you're discussing too, like zoning isn't in effect yet, and when it does, that's only for new units. It doesn't take in effect like an existing complex, does it not?
It doesn't take into account something that's already existing.
So it's just new
kind of like
development.
what you see in the short north here. So this used to be an area where we really were just trying to incentivize development. We
Yeah.
weren't thinking about the equitable piece of this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that did lead to people being displaced.
Yeah.
But beginning, I'd say in probably the mid 2010s is when the city said, okay, we're going to keep the incentives that we have for real estate, but we're no longer incentivizing development. We're incentivizing affordability.
Yeah.
And so if we hear of developers that are not providing the affordable units that they have agreed to do, we'll take action and make sure that they do.
But I think to his,
Agree though, right? Like,
to his
it's-
point though, like that 80%, even when you factor that in, that's still nowhere
Yeah, but
affordable.
that
where-
80% is not for this particular geography, it's
Yeah.
the whole city.
Right.
But
But
can,
So
like,
it's-
can we get that scale down to 60, 80, like that 20%? So that it is
So-
for the city.
It is, what I understand is that we have to have 10% of the units at 80%, 10% at 60, or 30% at 80.
Zoning says 10% at 80, 10% at 100.
Well, it depends where you were located.
So
On
how
the
do
lot
we-
that we were,
So, yeah,
we
how
were
do we
working
get
with,
random?
it was random.
These are really good
Zoning.
feedback, and we're happy to bring it back to
Yeah,
the people who are really focused on the housing piece of it. I would just tell you that from a city standpoint, this is what we are trying to accomplish. This is the mayor's North Star, this is the council president's North Star, this is all of council's North Star, is trying to make housing more affordable for our residents.
And not to belabor the point, but it's also supply and demand. So I know that there's a lot of market rate housing being built, but when you have more supply, right, like cost generally goes down. And so because we don't have enough supply, they can charge whatever they want to because people don't have a place to live.
That's what they're doing.
And so, yes, we do need the affordable housing, but we just need housing. Like, we need people to build a lot
we need
more
affordable
stuff.
housing.
Yes.
Let's be clear.
We do.
Like,
But if you have more housing, you have more options. When you have more options, the price comes down.
The landlords want
So one
It's
way to-
it's everything together at the same time.
Prices don't normally go down. Like I've been hearing that like with the county, you know, because people are complaining about, you know, food stamps and, you know, not being enough, like just to go off on another tangent, you know, it's not enough. And when bread is going up, you know, it's very likely it's not going to go down. You know, so we always hear, oh, when you get more, you get more, you get more. The prices will eventually go down, but we're in our fourth year of it. So.
I mean, it'll be a while
It's like-
before it flatlines, if anything. I mean,
I
10,
think
15
this
years.
Sure.
We're just
Could definitely have
running a little
more.
short
We
on
are,
time,
yeah.
so
Yep.
Maybe if we allot like 10 more minutes so we can get to the.
And I will
know that you
I will
all
get
have
back
Yeah.
to you
a lot
and
to
send
cover,
that
but
information
yeah.
to the chair about the housing.
Yes,
stuff.
this is a great, robust
Yeah.
discussion, but we really are on a timeline.
Yeah.
And we'll literally start trying.
Sorry,
to
I'm
give
long
us
winded.
5
No,
minutes.
no, it's.
Not
I'm
you.
gonna turn it over to Rory to
You
talk more
created
about.
a wonderful discussion, and I appreciate that.
But definitely turn it over to Rory to talk more about financial plan, but also what the actual transit investments are going to be for this.
Got it. All right, so we talked about the CODA levy. This is what is going to be on the ballot in November. So basically, there is currently a 0.5% CODA sales tax. What we are proposing is to increase that by 0.5% to 1%. That would be consistent with investment levels around the state. So Cleveland currently has a 1% transit sales tax. Hamilton County has a 0.8% transit sales tax. So we're looking to be at the same point as our peers. Currently at 0.5%, we're funded at the same level that Toledo is. We're much larger, we're growing a lot faster. At the same time, as a result of having that additional revenue, we're going to be able to make the investments that we need. We're going to be able to leverage almost $1 billion of federal money to help build these really needed transit investments. And so by 2050, that 0.5% increase will help create $8 billion new dollars that we can invest in the community, and then $2 billion by 2030. And as Elliot was talking about, just on that, the sidewalks, bikeways and trails piece, we're looking at about.
May I have your attention, please? The library will be closing in 30 minutes. If you
right.
need to arrange for a ride, please do so at this time. Thank you.
That's that just in the sidewalks, bikeways and trails piece, it's about $250 million. So here is what the current CODA system looks like. So that the light gray lines, those are the current fixed lines that you see right now. So the number 10, the number 2, that's what you see there. Those light gray areas, those are the CODA plus zone areas that Elliot talked about. That's where we have an on-demand service that helps people with last mile solutions. What they're proposing to do, what we're proposing to do with LinkUs, is create 8 new zones that make it easier for people's last mile solutions, or first and last mile solutions, to make it easier for them to connect to transit. And at the same time, we're looking to, that was one too many. We're looking to build either 14 new or improved transit lines. And so some of these will be new, completely new lines, but then we're also looking to improve the frequency of the lines. And then we're also looking to improve duration. So right now, the CODA only goes to, I want to say 11-ish. We're looking to potentially be at 24-hour service. And so we think that that is a really important thing for our community, because we also have a large workforce that doesn't work a standard day shift. And so at the same time, we're also proposing to build 5 rapid transit lines. And I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in a second. But we have 3 of those rapid transit lines that are in design right now. So we have West Broad Street, East Main Street, and then Northwest. And altogether, this represents almost a 50% increase in the CODA service that exists today. And the lines that you see in blue here, these are lines that we're going to study within the next 2 years here. As we've talked about, we've talked about 5 rapid transit lines. Well, we have 3 areas that we want to study more to see what is the right transit solution to improve those connections. So you have kind of a northern suburbs connection, then you have a downtown to the airport, to Easton, to the New Albany area, and then you have from downtown through the southern neighborhoods to get to Rickenbacker, where we have a lot of jobs as well. And then in green here, these are other lines that we see studying in the future to see how we can improve transit in those areas. It could be rapid transit, it could be just more frequency. But we got to figure out what makes the most sense to do that. And so when we talk about rapid transit, this is what we're talking about. It's a lot like light rail, but it's a bus. And basically what you have is you have, as much as possible, we're looking to have center running transit. So it operates very similar to light rail, but we can build it at about 1/7 of the cost of it, and also build it several years quicker than we could if we were doing light rail. And at the same time, even if we wanted to do light rail, we don't have enough density right now to qualify to get federal money to do that. And we just can't make that investment in the community. We need a system approach, not just a one-line approach. And so some of the other benefits that you see of rapid transit is you have level boarding. So you have the ability to just walk right onto the bus. If you had mobility issues, you no longer need to deploy a ramp to get down. That takes extra time. If you have a bike, you can just bring it right onto the bus. You don't have to strap it to the front, which can take some time as well. You also have off-board fare collection, so people aren't, trying to put dollars in or change, all those different things. And so you really have all the benefits of light rail, but we're paying a seventh of the cost to do it.
When it's going to start?
I'm sorry, say that again?
When it's going to start?
So the way that this is set up is that of those 3 lines that we're in design on right now, that's the dark blue ones. West Broad will be complete and operational, hopefully by 2028. Then East Main would follow in 2029, and then Northwest would be in 2030, 2031, or at least the first phase of it.
As you establish that rapid transit on the center lanes, would COTA consider down the road light rail on those center?
It certainly would make it easier to do that in the future. If we're going to grow by 1 million people over the next 25 years. By that time, maybe it does make sense that light rail becomes an option to put in there. But I would also tell you that the cities that already have light rail are also building this, because light rail doesn't always make sense. You have to have a really wide roadway unless you want to displace people, which we are trying to avoid doing. This just gives you a snapshot of what this looks like. This is Bell Street and Broad today. So you see the Veterans Memorial Museum there, and then you can see what this looks like with bus rapid transit on there. So you have, it's hard to see from here, but you have protected bike lanes along here. That's one of the things that we want to make sure that we really do many more of. You can see the center running lanes, that's the red there. Those are the stations that you see. And it really creates a boulevard-like feel to the street, as well as making it easier for bus travel to happen.
I know our time is short, but
Yeah.
it makes me very sad to think that by 2050, I will not be able to take light rail out to the airport from downtown.
It could happen.
Like,
say,
have
this
you
is
ever
a-
taken
this
a
is a
bus to the
25
airport? It's
Yeah.
miserable. It is miserable to take
I would
a bus
also
to the
counter
airport.
that,
So,
like, I would love to take light rail to the airport too, but I would also much rather see us build 5 or more bus rapid transit lines so the entire region can benefit, and you're connecting people and jobs together all across the area.
every year we lose these conventions, these very lucrative conventions, because there's not enough public transportation, and it's miserable to get from the airport to downtown.
I think
That's
this
exactly why we're
solves
doing
that.
this. So that's,
I
I
mean,
know
they
this
did-
is a step in that direction, but
They did have
yeah,
let's take a
dedicated,
bigger step.
they did have a dedicated line, but I don't know if they cut it because of no one
No.
taking it.
I mean, I think some of this has been where COTA has had to make service cuts because they've had staffing shortages.
Yeah.
And they're slowly ramping up their service again. I think air service is another one. As I mentioned before, we're looking to have bus rapid transit connect from downtown to the airport, to Easton, as well as to New Albany. So that is something that could happen over the next 25 years. But we really are trying to create a system. We don't want to create one line. If we said to the community, hey, we want everybody to pay a whole bunch of money, but we're only going to connect the airport to downtown, I think you'd have a whole lot of people looking at that map saying, well, what about my neighborhood? I want to be able to get to work every day. I only travel, once a year.
We're still people work up here.
That's true.
Are you also, I know that I was a resource navigator in different neighborhoods, and I know that for some of the warehouse buildings, like out west and south and east, and then also north, like in between Worthington and North Linden, or like right around 161.
Sure.
There's like these, and then the warehouses, I forget which ones, big warehouses with like Lexus and Owens, all those.
Linden.
Yeah, but like there's also ones, some out west, I I think, that there's like no buses. And then like the FedEx building, so there's a lot of big jobs that don't have bus.
That's what that is right there, those light blue lines. So looking at Morse Road, looking at 161, looking at potentially the freeways, how do we connect
But I
those
think
areas?
there's also some west.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to take the, so just to look at the area down to Rickenbacker, for instance. So
Okay.
this is something that's planned, but it's also building on things that CODA and other regional partners have implemented. Right now, CODA is building a, $20 million or more mobility center down right near Rickenbacker in the middle of the warehouse area.
Oh, good.
So people that, yes, they're going to be more frequent buses, but if they have to wait for a bus because their shift is at a weird hour, they have daycare there. They have food
That'd be
pantry there.
wonderful.
They have spaces to where community colleges come in and teach classes. They have other resources too to be able to, bring what people can need every day to a place where people are already waiting. And so, trying to expand, giving people opportunity.
Yeah, but yeah, just where those big warehouses, the big.
Oh yeah,
warehouses.
and like I've talked with folks down like Groveport and Obetz, for instance,
Exactly.
and they are acutely aware of the needs, both in terms of transit, of sidewalks, of everything to really bring people, because like you'll have people walking on the side of the road trying to get to the sidewalk. And that's one of the biggest priorities they put down there, is making sure that there's safe places for people to get around down
The other thing that's really little is, I don't know if you know this, but right now, the only place where you can get the reduced bus passes for a lot of people is like, if you want to get the half off, or based on income, or if you want to get like a month pass or something, you have to all do it at the main CODA downtown, and there's no parking. And so like, if I'm trying to run and grab something for a client or a neighbor or my godkids, get them a bus pass for the month, I can't it's really hard to just go in there and grab it. There's like, and there's also, you can't buy a lot of bus passes at the Kroger. The Kroger's used to have a lot of options of bus passes, and like you could buy weekly or just the transfer. But like, it's really hard to even buy bus passes at Kroger. And then when you call CODA, like to try to do it online, the online system to load up your bus passes doesn't work. So that's just like a little thing that like I think is really, a lot of people give up. I know that like, just at that point, the only reason why I even take a bus at all, I literally wouldn't try because of that issue. But because I am currently an OSU student, I have the bus pass, so that makes it easier. But that's just like
I'll pass that on
little
to.
tweak that I think would make a huge difference.
I'll pass that on to the.
So we have one more item on the agenda
Yep.
for you all, so maybe you can just tell us about this, and then
Yep.
I would love for you to just tell us again what we need to do to make this all happen, because I think that wasn't totally clear that we all have to vote for this,
I'll say we
right?
could just go to the end of slides probably.
Yeah. So basically, what I would say, let me just give you one quick case study. So where we have made these rapid transit investments, Cleveland is a really great example of great success that they've had. So they have the Helpline in Cleveland. Has anybody taken that? But basically, it's 7.2 miles. About 4.5 of that is on center running bus rapid transit. And since 2009, for every dollar that has been invested publicly, so 200 million that you see up there, $190 has been returned for every public dollar spent. And so there's been almost $10 billion of economic development along there, and includes 8,800 housing units along there, as well as 13,000 jobs. You look at the Twin Cities, which is the Minneapolis area, they've seen since 2009 $16 billion in new development, and 37% of all the development in their 7-county region has happened along where they're building where they're building rapid transit, and they're only using it 3% of the land to do that. And they've had 52,000 housing units. And so really for us, how people can get involved in this. One is QR code here. This is our outreach toolkit. It's access to all the different videos that we have on Link Us. Gives you a lot more detail on the things that we've talked about today. At the same time, I can stay after the meeting. I know we got to get out of here, but I'm happy to talk to people more, answer any questions that you have. But really for us, there is a ballot initiative in November. I can't tell you as a city employee that you should vote for it. But what I would say is, I don't think we really have a choice. We have 1 million people coming, whether we like it or not.
Right.
The longer we're going to need to make this investment. If we don't make it now, it's going to be a lot more expensive in the future and a lot more difficult to do. So I appreciate the time tonight.
I also just want to say, because this is sales tax, it's not just us paying, right? So anybody that comes in for an OSU football game, anybody that comes in for a conference, when people come into the Arnold Classic, they are contributing to these funds. And we have a lot of tourism in the city of Columbus. So this is not just like a property tax thing where it's on our backs, right? This is everybody that comes into this region is going to be helping to support this.
But at the same time, we're also basically limited to using a sales tax too by existing state law. So we understand there are some equity issues and with regressive taxes, but this is literally what we'll have to work with.
And I think you said it's 0.5%, so that's like 0.5 cent.
It's 0.5
every
penny.
dollar that you spend. That's how much they're asking.
May I have your
Anyways, thank you
The
so much.
library will be closing in 15 minutes. Please complete your task, arrange for a ride home, and print or save your work. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, well, you guys have done a wonderful job, and we can go on your website and get the QRs and all that, right?
Yep, we'll
And
get
more
this information to you,
Yep.
and again, I'm
Tell
happy
your
to stay
friends.
over
Great
afterwards.
Would you
to
like to
answer
come up and
questions.
talk
Sure.
to us?
Hi, everybody.
Come on up.
It's worth it. I don't work for the CISO.
It's not us, it's the library. And we're actually in the process of looking for a place that won't kick us out at 8 o'clock.
So I'm Rachel Kengan. I work for the Short North Alliance. We're a nonprofit that serves to implement the Special Improvement District plans of services for both the Short North Special Improvement District as well as the 5th Avenue and 4th Street Special Improvement District. So I'm here because of that, because I have the pleasure of helping make, among other things, public art happen in those geographic areas. So I wanted to talk to you today about a project that we are kicking off with a new development that is in Wineland Park. So at the northeast corner of 5th Avenue and 4th Street, Thrive is building a new multi-use. Yeah, take a second, just like map it in your head. Northeast corner, it's a building that is, I wouldn't say nearly done, but like you know when you drive by there, it's that kind of that big like cantilevered section. They're gonna have a pool on the top. It's gonna be very cool. I won't be swimming there. But they, the developers would like to invest in public art on the west-facing side of that building. So as you're driving east on 5th Avenue, you'll see there's that big white wall. It's going to be a mural. And it's kind of a gateway to Wineland Park. And so it really matters to us and to Thrive that we hear from Wineland Park residents about what you want art in your community to say about your community. One of the goals of the project, and in general, a goal of the 5th Avenue and 4th Street Special Improvement District, is to support efforts to develop a unique identity for the neighborhoods that overlap and are adjacent to that district, and to enhance a sense of community and community identity and pride. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what the process is going to be, and then how you can insert yourselves into it. I was hoping we'd have a little time to kind of discuss ideas tonight. I think what I'll do maybe is ask when your next meeting is as well, so I can come back, but also give you my email address so you can reach out, you can share it with your neighbors, anybody who you think has a good opinion on this and wants to share. So please insert themselves into the conversation. The process is that we've released a call for artists. It's open nationally, but we're going to preference local artists or what we get a lot of is like people who like were born and raised in Ohio or in Columbus and now live somewhere else, but really feel strong ties to the community. That's going to be open until July 5th, depending on how many applicants we get and if the quality of the applicants is what we want to see. We may extend that or not, but that's kind of our goal right now. Then we'll pick 3 semifinalists. The way we pick those semifinalists is through recommendations from a committee. So the 5th Avenue and 4th Street Special Improvement District has a public art committee, an advisory committee who's going to take a look at the applicants and help us select 3 semifinalists who will put together a full proposal. I would love to share those 3 semifinalist proposals with the community to get your opinions on it. Ultimately, as the developer and owner of the property, Thrive is going to have the final say on who the artist is, but their ears are wide open, as are ours, in terms of hearing from the community about what you would like to see in that space, or what kind of ideas or themes you would like the artist kind of ruminating on as they're developing the proposals. So,
And the applications are due July 5th.
July 5th, then we'll pick our semifinalists, and then we'll give them about 3 weeks to develop a full proposal to say, not just I'm a qualified artist, but this is what I'm envisioning for this particular space. In the application, we're asking them to think about being very site-specific and responsive to the community. That's something we generally ask for. It's really particularly important here, I think, because of the location and visibility of the mural. And so we really want to get it right, and that means we've got to be able to sit and listen, which we don't have a ton of time for this evening. So Tanya, I definitely want to follow up with you about ways that I can kind of get that information out to you all, and more importantly, get lots of information back from your community members.
How big is the mural?
Yeah, it's about 1,000 square feet.
1,000 square feet, it'll be on the west side.
The west side.
And so I have friends who are across the street from that and neighbors. And so will they have any say in the final selection? Or I know it's private property, but.
Yeah, if we can get them into this kind of, setting to provide feedback, then absolutely.
Do artists?
It's on 4th Street side, yeah.
You know the artists that might be interested.
Oh,
I can think of a couple.
Should let it
Yeah.
go. It's a quick turnaround at this point.
I hope they're not leaving those hideous panels there.
Well,
Is
it's
there
a quick turnaround,
information on
but
like the Short North
July
Alliance
5th.
website for
It's
artists?
actually on the 5th Avenue and 4th Street.
Okay.
So it's 5thandfourth.org
Okay.
/public art.
4th Street and 5th Avenue?
5th
The
Avenue,
Thrive
4th
property
Street,
on
yeah.
the northeast corner and facing west. So if you're driving east, you're
So across from
looking,
the park.
Yes.
Yeah.
but at the corner, at
So I
5th.
think, I think it'd be a really good idea to get the, Luan Sellers, Luan and Tamia Sellers they run the, Wildcat.
Wildcat.
Football team. Oh, sorry. And I would think it would be great whenever artist is involved, if there's a way of engaging with the youth. I know Godman Guild still does some stuff with some of the youth in the neighborhood too. But those would be like key people that, Luan and Tamia, and then Godman Guild.
I don't think Godman Guild so much, but I would suggest maybe
Well,
Zora.
Godman Guild
Yeah,
has a
Zora's-
presence
I would
at
suggest
the,
maybe Zora.
Who did,
Huckleberry House
Godman
actually
Guild
have
has a
some
presence
elements
at
to
Wyland
Mhm.
Park
their
after school.
So they
Yeah.
So all the
have
kids, they would have,
artists
it would be elementary school kids, but they would have access to that.
Right.
Tanya, do you know who, because there is a mural on Zora's house. Did
Yeah.
they use someone local or?
I don't know who they use, but I'm going to make them very much aware of this. I'm going to make them aware because the turnaround is so quick at this point.
I know.
Very quick turnaround.
Well, not for the artists, I'm not talking about them, Godman Guild, but to be actual artists.
Right.
But if they could like
Have
be
input.
connected to the artists,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
maybe
Because
even help with.
just to have input on what that should look like and how it could be representative of the community.
Yeah.
With them in it, the Wildcats, and maybe Zora. Zora's a very good think tank of entrepreneurship that we're very proud of, and we'd like to highlight that in some way and show that, the diverse and economic areas of Wyland Park
Huckleberry House.
Huckleberry House, absolutely.
I will send you my contact information if you're able to distribute it to folks. That would be great. And please feel free to chime in. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rachel. Chris, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Festival?
Yep, we will actually host our next festival planning committee meeting this Thursday. If you go to our website, vinelandpark.org, we do have a calendar that lists all the recurring meetings. Some are on Tuesdays, some on Thursdays. We're just looking for.
May I have your attention, please? The library will be closing in 5 minutes. Library computers and checkout stations will shut down at 8 p.m. Please prepare to leave the building at this time. Thank you.
Where do you meet?
Where we meet, it's a virtual Teams meeting, so you can dial in by phone, you can join by like a web browser or the Teams app.
And you can find out when on our page.
Yeah, winelandpark.org, and just look on the calendar. This coming Thursday, 6:30 p.m. There's a dial-in number on there, a Teams link if you want to join. So we just get together to organize people who will set up, tear down.
This is just for the festival.
Just for the festival. Yep.
And when is it going to be? Sorry, this one laughs.
Sorry,
When is the festival going to be?
it's August 24th, the Saturday,
Yes.
noon to 3.
We'll need people there. Well, we usually get there about 10.
10 o'clock. Yep. It'll be the 4th Saturday of August from noon to 3.
And we're usually out of there by 5.
Yep. Yeah.
So it'll be
What's that?
at the park.
It'll be at Wineland Park now because of that playground being torn down. We may have to move the festival a little more east towards 4th, just to be away from any potential construction or any fencing. I don't, right now I think it's still just pilot or just a flat, just dirt.
It's they mulched it. So
Okay.
it is covered at least now. It's not
So yeah, we'll have a virtual meeting.
Seriously, did we catch it?
We just get together about planning, who will help with food preparation, and passing out flyers, that type of stuff.
Serving food, helping to serve food. Run the hamster balls and the bounce houses.
Yeah, we need volunteers for the various, during the event. So there's a bounce house, hamster balls, food prep. And then just-
Engaging our face painters and activities.
Oh, Brutus is coming.
Yes.
And Brutus will be coming out.
And the bug.
The bug guy's coming.
Okay,
Well, if you guys
everyone,
know of
they're
any,
putting us out. We are actually
Thank you so
looking
much,
for some place.
If any if any organizations want to be present at the festival too,
We have tables.
reach out to us.
Rachel, you guys should get a
I was gonna
table.
say, we'll probably,
I believe that's in my district.
You guys should get a table.
I think I'm bad and I don't have a card, but I will check.
Jasmine Iron.
Yep, Jasmine Ayres, AYRES.
Yeah, yeah.